Yay.
Hi everyone, it's Kelly from the Hub, here today with a new friend of ours. This is Roberta. She works for the WellSpan Health system, and she is in charge of all the what's called horizon planning for all 5 counties of that WellSpan is. So I know you're probably like, what is horizon planning? We'll get to that. Hello, Roberta.
Hello, Kelly.
How are you today?
Happy today. I'm great. You know, it's a sunny day. Unfortunately, it's the end of summer, so I'm going to be missing summer.
I have to say, we're going to be the opposites in that. I can't wait. I can't have summer end fast enough. It's not my favorite season. Everybody who's listened to these all season has known that. They're like, we hate you too. But I'm a fall girl. I think it's because I was born in October. So that's just how, I was in the womb during the fall. That's the good time of year for me. So.
Well, and
right.
I grew up in Northeast Ohio, so all of the seasons, I love every season because they bring something new and different.
Okay, so that's a weird thing, and we're going to have to talk about that, but we'll talk about that because I also grew up in Northeast Ohio, but we'll do that later.
Okay.
I know, that just got weird. All right, everybody. So you're thinking to yourself, what in H is horizon planning? Here we go.
All right.
Roberta, what is it?
So horizon planning is WellSpan's name for advanced care planning. Every health system across the country, if we were to say to somebody, we want to talk to you about advanced care planning, they would run opposite direction.
Right, because that sounds scary.
Advanced care planning is talking about death and dying. Yeah. And we have a logo that is a sunrise. And we have a tagline for WellSpan that is the journey that is life. So when the group back in 2014 said we need to change the way we're talking to people about end-of-life care, we thought that sunrise, that tagline, everybody has a health horizon, let's plan for it. And so we came up with a trademark name called Horizon Planning. And the health system that's been doing this the longest, that's out of La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
Her approach, respecting choices.
Yeah.
And then Ellen Goodman, the Pulitzer Prize winning journalist in Boston, her mother died not very well. And it caused Ellen to think a lot about how we all need to understand why this is important to do with our family members. And so she started something called the Conversation Project. That's now connected with the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. So just like every other health system, we have to brand our own. And so we've called our approach Horizon Planning. And as someone told me in a community presentation once, a couple of years ago, Roberta, the biggest reason for mortality around the world, I'm not sure if you understand, Roberta, what that is, but I want to tell you. And of course, you kind of go, okay, I'm the presenter, you're the audience, I got to go with you.
Right.
He said, it's birth. Because the minute you're born, you have to die, you can't escape it. And so we really can't avoid this topic. We do to our peril and really with the worst consequences. Yeah. And so I was hired by WellSpan in 2017 to really focus on this effort throughout our health system and help our staff start having conversations in a better way with our patients, know how to do that, and know how to help our patients understand and the community understand why this is so important. And then now, Kelly, with COVID, it's critically important because people will end up in the hospital that really should not be there because either of their age or because of their illnesses. They won't really survive COVID, and it would be better for them to not be put on a ventilator, allow their family to be with them, and to die comfortably at home. So it's really determining the quality of life you want. It's not determining, it is determining how you want to die, but it's more about how do you want to live when it's in those last weeks and days of your life.
I think what's fascinating about this stuff is, well, one, it's uncomfortable for pretty much everybody. And two, because of a lot of media attention, it can be controversial. And I think that when people talk about it or not talk about it, as the case may be,
Yeah.
they think of those super controversial, drawn out legal battle cases and then say, well, I don't want to deal with any of that, so I don't want to walk down that path. We'll just let nature take its course, or whatever their thought process is, which is not wrong. It's just that,
It's not helpful.
yeah, and
Not helpful.
yeah, and this is such, I mean, it's like anything in the entire universe. If you allow yourself to just be like floating on the waves and letting the waves take you where they are in a relationship, in your job, in whatever, that may work out for you. But if you plan and you have a path, it may not always work that way, but at least you feel like you are in a little bit of control as your life is progressing. And that's why I'm so glad that health systems have this, because then they can help you in that moment.
Well,
And
and WellSpan is unique in this, Kelly. We're the only health system in this region that has a concentrated, standardized approach to having these conversations with our patients starting at age 18, when advanced care planning really should start. Because I know
right, no one wants to talk about it then.
no, personally, I know in my own family, we've had a 26-year-old granddaughter, 3-year-old great-granddaughter, 5-year-old great-grandson be in a head-on crash. And it killed the granddaughter and our great-granddaughter, but left the great-grandson in foster care because no one thought, I'm going to die in a car crash at age 26. And there were no plans for him. There was no one designated to care for him. And everybody thinks, well, the child will just go to their family. No, the child goes into foster care, and then foster care decides what happens. So it's even that kind of planning. I had a colleague talk with me a couple of weeks ago that her 21-year-old son got in a snowmobile accident and died. But he was on life support for a few days, and she thought, if we had only had this conversation, if I only knew exactly what he would have wanted. And she works in healthcare.
Right.
But I've never met anybody who said, oh, I didn't know what my loved one wanted, and I was perfectly fine making all the decisions.
Right.
It's a struggle. It's a very big responsibility. And it's part of what Ellen Goodman says in all of the videos. We have videos on our website that really can educate people about how difficult it is to be in the moment, trying to decide, what do I do for my loved one when there's no hope?
Yeah.
And I have to give up on them, and the guilt that comes with that, unless you know exactly, this is what my loved one would have wanted because they told me so.
Yeah.
I wrote it down.
I can't imagine the agony that people go, well, actually I can. I worked in hospice for a little while, and I've sat with those people. I've watched family members struggle. I've watched them deny because they didn't want their relative to pass. And they said they were in denial because they didn't want to face it. And it didn't help the situation. And it's rough to watch that.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen in that situation, and I've seen too, and talked with people, the amount of fighting that can go on in a family at the end, where somebody is saying, yes, do everything, be aggressive, and somebody else is saying, no, we can't do that. That's not what they wanted. I've even seen it go so far as people take each other to court to undo the arrangements that are being made by somebody who has the power of attorney. So the more we talk about this, the more we involve our family members, the more we're very, very clear about what we want in a legal document.
Right.
that is shared with everybody. So everybody's on the same page. The
Right.
best outcomes are.
And this is something that if you work it out ahead, it will prevent a ton, not necessarily all, but a ton of that stuff down the road. You want it to prevent all, but that's, that's becomes a whole other complicated issue. But, and so I think you have to get over yourself, because you are your own worst enemy in that moment, because you're saying to yourself, mom's never going to die. She's my mom. I can't lose her. What if I don't have my mom? And all of that stuff that plays in your head. She's my best friend. What about the day that she made chocolate cake for me? And all of that stuff plays out in a split second when something happens to mom or anybody in that situation. And so you're not thinking logically. You're not, as we learn all the time, you're not thinking with this part of your brain. You're thinking with this part of your brain, which is that fight or flight part. And if you could talk about it ahead of time, then that helps that moment.
When you're not in crisis.
Yeah.
Because when you're in crisis, it just makes it that much harder. And for most of us who love our families, these conversations become very cherished ones. And we know from research that when these conversations are held, the amount of depression, anxiety, and stress is eliminated almost totally for those people who have had conversations compared to those who haven't. So research study after research study will say 6 months after the death of someone, there's not the second guessing. Did I do the right thing? Did I do what they wanted? Was the right decision made? What has happened is we're so blessed to have had that time with mom or dad or brother or sister or whoever it is with them without all the anxiety. Yeah, none of us want to watch our loved ones die,
Right.
but it brings so much more comfort. We know 3 to 5 times higher for people who don't have these conversations than people who do. And I've seen studies where there's absolutely no depression, no anxiety. The stress of somebody dying, but not the others. So it really is an important thing to understand what it means. And you're right, the Terry Schiavo cases that were national attention, where a mother and father were fighting with a husband who was the power of attorney, watching this woman who was completely brain dead.
For over 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. And just the cost of maintaining a body, because there was no person there was just a body, was heartbreaking for everybody.
Yeah.
All of the court costs, all of the healthcare costs. And I totally understand wanting to hang on to somebody, because I've lost my husband at age 51 to pancreatic cancer. I lost my mother to cancer at age 82. I lost my father to old age. So I've seen death and I've experienced it personally. And I know when it goes well, it's very comforting. And when it doesn't, it is continually heartbreaking.
I know that there are people who are watching who are thinking, well, that means you're going to take my loved one before they die.
Oh, no.
And the answer is that's not even remotely close to what we're talking about. And as we go through this series, we'll talk about what that means. We'll talk about what does organ donation mean? How does that work? How is that part of this or not part of this, and all that stuff? Because I want to make sure everybody's super clear, and that all those, oh, that means this. We got to talk about all those things, because I never want to leave one of those big elephants in the room left sitting there.
Oh, sure.
So
sure.
yeah, we will certainly talk about that. And that also means, oh, that means you're going to pull the plug. No. That doesn't mean that either. That means we're working out what the decision is. You work that out, and then you write it down. You make sure that there are people in charge so that you can grant the wishes of your loved one.
Right. And there are very specific conditions, and there's not just one person that makes the decision.
Right.
So in every case, there has to be 2 physicians that are agreeing with each other in terms of the course of action. And the conditions really are, you have to be close to death. either because of old age and frailty or because you have some serious progressive terminal illness that you no longer can obtain treatments for, or
Right.
whatever the treatments are that you've been getting are not going to work any longer. The second one is in a coma with brain damage where you're not expected to recover, or permanent and severe brain damage, again, where you're not expected to recover, or any other condition where you would not want to be kept alive. So say you have a severe stroke and you become a vegetable.
Mhm.
You know, that's part of that. I've got permanent brain damage from my stroke. I'm not going to recover. For some of us, that's the condition. For me personally, if I had that, I can't do everything I normally do in my life. I don't want to be that burden to my family.
Yeah.
So this is not your living will is used when you come in for pneumonia. No,
Right.
if it's a
Right.
treatable condition and we think you can recover, even if you're 120, we're
Right.
going to do everything for you to help you to recover. But if you've said, in these particular conditions, I would prefer to die at home, I would prefer to have hospice care, because we should have hospice care for as long as possible, and Medicare approves it for up to 6 months.
Yep.
We should have palliative care the minute we get diagnosed with a very, very serious illness. And those two are topics that I want to cover over time with us, because most people are afraid of palliative care. They're afraid of hospice. They believe hospice is just giving up. No, I can tell you my husband was in hospice, and it was the best, most supportive service
Yeah.
for him and me and for my husband's family.
Yeah.
It made a tremendous difference to know day to day what was happening and how to care best for him, to keep him from pain and to keep him comfortable so that he could share really up until the last 3 days of his life.
I think that people will find this series valuable in ways they don't even know,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things you don't want to know it, but you know you have to know it. And I think if you just give yourself a minute and take some of it in, then you can go, oh yeah, I should probably have that conversation with somebody,
Yeah.
whoever that is,
And
yourself.
one of the reasons that people avoid this, Kelly, is they don't know where to start. They don't
Right.
what questions I should ask. How do I have this conversation? You know, when I do a community presentation, oftentimes I'll have older adults like me who'll say, you know, I'm at the age where I've got some health things going on. I just want my adult children to sit down and talk to me, and I can't get them to recognize this. They just say, Mom, Dad, you're too focused on death.
Right.
Let's put it aside. And of course, I'm in my 40s or 50s, and I'm not going to die anytime soon.
Right.
But they're the ones that'll have the heart attack they don't expect, or the stroke they don't expect, and their parents have to make decisions for them. So it's a two-way street. We know that 90% of people really want to talk to their family members, share their own story, learn the stories of others about what they'd want at the end of life. But only about 30% of people do that because they just don't know where to start. And it's one of the reasons we've developed a toolkit for everybody. You can go to our website, you can order the packet of information that can help you walk through this. It has a free document in it, because we know, again, 85% of people want to put their wishes in writing, but only 23% have. Because what is it? Where do I find the documents? What do I do with them?
Right.
People think they need an attorney or a notary, which we don't need either in Pennsylvania. So you don't need that cost. You don't need that expertise. You really can fill these out yourself.
That makes it so much easier and so much more accessible. Yeah.
It really is. And so we make it as easy as possible for our patients, because we have a patient portal. They can go right to that and get the documents for free. Anyone in the community can go to our website, just put in Horizon Planning, and there's a little form you fill out, and we'll send you a free document, as many as you want.
Yeah.
For you and your family members. And I say, you know, get a cup of coffee, get a glass of iced tea. For some of us, get a glass of wine or, you know, a beer, and sit around the table and just have a conversation. I even have a game. I can give to people. So there's a game called the Hello Game. It has 33 questions, and you sit around a table and you ask the question, you write your answer, then you share the answers with everybody. It makes it fun.
Well, and it makes it easy because then you don't have to think of the question. You don't have to go, right. Mom, when you die, what do I do? Right? Because those you just have to read it.
Well, and that's not really the question you want.
Right.
Hey, when you're going to die, what are you pushing me out?
Right, because anyway, I mean, we're all family to somebody. Absolutely. Or friends with somebody. And we've all sort of thought about, what do I even say? How do I say it? How do I not make myself look dumb? How do I make myself look caring and not vicious? How do I don't want to bring it up at a holiday when I see my relatives, because now that holiday is always going to be tainted with, this is the day we had our death talk. So, right. So there's so much that we all have that makes this conversation hard. So then you just go, da, da, da. We'll do it next year.
Well, but I'll tell you something. I got some friends whose mother is so into this that Thanksgiving dinner is when everybody's around the table. So she'll bring out their living wills and durable powers of attorney, set them at their place at the table and say, okay, is there anything we need to update? Do you need to change anything? New family members get introduced to it. And she says, you know, this is death over dinner at Thanksgiving. We're so grateful to all be together again this year. But if anything should happen, we all want to know it, and we're never together any other time of the year. So sometimes, Kelly, I'll have to disagree with you. Sometimes the holidays are the best.
You know what? I think that let's use that model to be better family members.
Yeah.
To our own families. That I'm thankful for the year that I had with all of you. I'm using this document so that I can be thankful next year, or if someone's not with us, so we can help this process. I think that's the best thing I ever heard.
And Death Over Dinner actually is a company out of Oregon who you can go look them up online, and they have a whole script of questions and dinner suggestions, and they're expanding their effort even more this year. But there's a lot of just fun tools out there.
Yeah.
That all of us are trying to make this easier for people to talk about.
And you know what? It's going to happen. So we might as well talk about it and make the most and make it the best we possibly can, given the situation.
Yeah.
Roberta, I can't wait for this series to unfold. I think that people are just going to be so excited, even though they don't think they're gonna, to learn all this. So thank you. I'm so looking forward to this.
Oh, I am too, Kelly. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Absolutely.
It's part of our pillars are building awareness, and having this chance will make a difference in our community. Thanks
Absolutely.
so much.
We will see you again next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.